Hello everyone and welcome back to another Train Simulator 2 news video. Now, as you can see from what you are seeing right now, some news screenshots have been released for the LGV Mediterranean, which will hopefully be coming out within the next couple of weeks ideally. And there is a new route building article out as well. So what we are going to do is we are going to have a little read through it. So let's have a little look. So this is from Peter and James, of the employees of Dovetail Games. And let's have a little look. So Peter says, I am the senior technical designer. As part of the rail vehicle setup team, my job is to create the loco's technical perspective, including simulation and functional elements. What I do is essentially bring all the visuals into something that can actually be used and interacted with, such as the buttons, levers and everything in the cab. I then add all the setup to control the systems such as animation and lighting, and this is what James does. I am the senior physics engineer. I use our team's tools to make the physics for pretty much every train we are creating. I created all of the initial block out, and I've done all the air systems and brakes. There are amazing 4 different braking systems on the TGV. Well, there's 4 different blimmin' It was my responsibility to ensure all the systems work and integrate together. There's a lot of blending between systems. For example, the electrical system and the characteristics of the electric brake is part of this when it gets blended with the air brake system. And this is, how do you start making a new locomotive? Peter says that's a difficult question to answer because of the amount of detail that goes into a loco. Our initial steps are research. We have to figure out everything we need and want to implement, which includes identifying all the controls and their behaviours, as well as the more technical underlying elements such as power systems, any safety systems or brake operation, all the electrical and air related systems under the hood, how the controls manipulate and drive all of that. Once we have that information, and the development process is then start creating all of the controls and tie them into functionality of all the other components. Why is the initial model bright pink? Peter says, when we first get the model from the artists, it's just a basic mesh, no texturing, no materials, or anything like that, and the way Unreal Engine shows an untextured asset is just grey and extremely bland, monotone grey that you can't see any detail in. Pink is a great contrast colour that we apply to see some of the details of the mesh, and it makes it easier for us while working to place the initial controls before the more detailed model gets in. And then we have another thing, is there anything unique about the loco and the gameplay? Peter says this loco has 4 different safety systems: TVM 430, KVB, Crocodile and VACMA. Quite a few there. The TVM high speed in-cab signalling allows trains to travel over 300 km an hour. KVB in-cab signalling system works with the local colour light signals. Crocodile is a more basic signalling system that alerts the driver to warning or danger signals, and VECMA is a vigilance warning system that keeps the driver alert and in the seat while driving. Now James comes into the chat. The TGV has a combined throttle and brake handle, which primarily uses electric braking, but also blends in local air brakes on the power cars as well at low speed. It has a train brake system using an air-operated PBL, a press-a-button locomotive brake handle, which runs with EP assist. This applies air brakes across the whole train, but using EP to speed up brake applications and releases. There is a backup air brake. Should the PBL or EP systems fail. The main difference that will be felt in high-speed content tends to have different gear ratios, so you end up with relatively slow acceleration, much higher top speeds. Going this fast definitely affects the gameplay. There's a series of things we've done to ensure that the game loads scenery fast enough to guarantee you don't run out of world. That's happened many times to me. The other thing, of course, is that the huge distances covered. Because when you are doing 300 km an hour, it takes a vast distance to stop. Planning ahead is vital for this kind of route. Now, what is Simugraf? This is what James has to say. It is a graph-based approach to replicating essentially all the traction braking and power systems that represent an individual rail vehicle. It is a simulation of a real-world physics environment. We might create, for example, an air reservoir, which is an air tank, and that will have an amount of air in it which will create pressure. We can then create a pipe from there to another one, and a valve so you can turn it on and off. And as well as turn in, on, air will flow through and it will calculate how it balances out between the two reservoirs. We start with things like that and then expand to some quite complex systems. And then Peter says the TGV is comprised of about 100 different nodes within Simugraf, which defines the characteristics as simple as the axles and brake pads to the more detailed, complicated electronic systems like the current selector for the pantographs. And you can see a screenshot there. Have you come across any challenges while creating this loco? Peter says there's always challenges when it comes to doing the research for locos. This one in particular, although we have done it previously with Train Simulator, the amount of detail we can go into this time means we are essentially doing the research from scratch to ensure we haven't missed anything and to gather new information. And then James says, I think getting to grips with supports of multiple voltages, and although that's not much a challenge, it is a new technology and we haven't had this ability before now. We've built one multi-voltage train previously and we had two different systems there and not two different voltages via the same system. One of the biggest challenges for us was actually understanding French. All of the manuals are in French, so when we wanted to read about it, all of the information we wanted was in French. This is one of the disadvantages of going into the depth and detail we do to get everything right, because the fact we speak a little French, on occasion we were trying to translate some very technical terms which wouldn't normally come into a standard conversation. And that is it for that article there. Quite a long one. Hopefully everyone did enjoy it. Obviously monitor the channel, subscribe if you don't want to see more news about this upcoming route. Obviously link is in the description to the Discord server and to the PayPal. But that is it everyone. Thanks all for coming in and I hopefully will see you in the next one. Bye everyone and take care.